I want to talk about few members in the church who were treated badly by them, and what is the feedback of some of the believers on your pastor Chaitanya and Janet. Now, we had a first intern in our church in Tabernacle. I don't want to mention his name, and I'm not going to mention any of the names in this video. Now, this person was a new believer. He comes from a non-Christian background, and then he was so passionate about serving Jesus that he quit his secular job. He was making good amount of money every month. He quit the job, with the hope that he can learn something from Capstone, and then he joined as an intern in Capstone Church. And I don't know if you all remember, one of the Sundays, your pastor Chaitanya called him onto the stage and he introduced, stating he is our first intern whom we are going to take into this church and help him in the ministry. Now, this particular boy, he was very passionate about learning. He wanted to learn. He wanted to learn more about God. He wanted to serve as much as he can. And he didn't want to waste his time. He wanted to get into ministry full time. Of course, he got full time. That's why he quit his job and joined the church. But the way he was treated by your pastor Chaitanya and Janet was very, very bad. Now, church, you might think you might definitely have a benefit of doubt. How can you say this, Selvin? Join Capstone Church for an year as a staff. You will know the real colors of them. Anyway, so this particular boy, he joined, and the kind of work they were making him do, it was very cheap. They made him to go buy. Of course, you are in the ministry and you have to do certain things, and he was willing to do all that. But if you're using that person only to do that, which is not correct. Now, are you teaching him something? No, he was not. Many times, at least couple of times, this boy went and asked Chaitanya that I want to join Bible college. Your pastor Chaitanya discouraged him, saying, "Do not join." No. And he was been tortured, and he was actually he was hurt by the behavior of your pastor Chaitanya and Janet, to a point that he left the church. He left the church, and he never turned back. He never turned back to Capstone. He got married, and then he was serving in another church. But when he was being tortured, the statements your pastor Chaitanya made to him is that I will not teach you anything. You have to just see and learn. A person who left everything. Of course, he felt that he wanted to get into ministry, and he comes and hoping that you will help him, but you do not. But rather, both of you treated him very badly. Now, this particular boy is no more. He passed away last year. Now, one of our church members, very close to him, and his wife does not know why he quit Capstone, and she couple of times asked him, but he never mentioned anything about how he was treated. But the statement that he made to his wife is this: the scars that they left in my heart still bleed when I think about what they have done to me. Pastor Chaitanya and Janet, what is your response to this boy's question? That's the first incident, church, I want to talk about. They don't treat the staff very well. There's another staff who was a lady. Right? Now this woman was working in the church as a staff, and then she conceives. Now, when she became pregnant, your pastor Chaitanya comes to her and tells her that now that you are pregnant, how would you commute to work? And also the salary that we're giving you, we can hire 2 more interns in your salary, and we can make them work in this church. Indirectly telling her to leave the job. Is that how you treat a pregnant woman? Do you know that it is illegal, that you can be legally sued for treating a woman like that? Now, my question to Pastor Chaitanya and Janet is that when a woman is pregnant and who is your staff, you can't provide her the facilities, but you let her go off a job? Strange. That's how you treat your staff, and that's how they treat their staff church. Now, once this woman, delivered the baby and she started coming to church, that's when he asks her again that I'm expecting you to join back work. Wow. You have the audacity to treat a woman like that, Pastor Chaitanya? That's how they treat the staff in the church. There are at least a couple of believers whom I know that they mentioned that your pastor does not treat them well. There are some believers who are there in this church for quite some time, and when they spoke to us, we were really disappointed by the way they were treated by Janet. They said that we say hi, she doesn't even show her face to us. She doesn't even respond to them. But why are they still coming to this church? Just because their children wanted to be in Sunday school. Your pastor doesn't even smile back at them when they smile. Now, one of the things that I wanted to tell to you, church, here is your pastor Chaitanya knows every person and what is the tithe they give. Now, based on the tithe that you give, your respect levels vary. Now, this particular family has gone through a lot. There at least one of the believers who told that your pastor Chaitanya demanded him to say hi to him a couple of times. Is that how you treat your believers? What authority you have got that you treat your believers in such a way? Is this how a pastor is supposed to be? The way they treat volunteers, the way they treat staff, the staff are the ones who closely work with your pastor Chaitanya, and what they think, you've got two faces. Throughout the week you have a different face, and Sunday morning they see a different pastor altogether. What kind of an example are you setting up for your staff? One of the believers' church, when she gave an idea of that why are we doing carols for the believers? Why don't we go to the non-believers and spread the good news? And for that, your pastor Chaitanya got very angry and he shouted at her, stating, "You don't tell me what I should do for my church. I know what to do for my church." Poor lady, she cried. Is that how you treat a believer? When you feel so insecure, you do all these things. Now, church, I want to make this statement or talk about this, that in case of Pastor Praveen and Pastor Ashwat Kumar, when they were asked to move out of this church, they both were in full-time ministry. Now, they did not immediately start a church or immediately start the ministry, because whatever your pastor Chaitanya and Janet mentioned that they had a vision and moved on is a lie. And when these two people left, you know what? They become clueless. They become so rejected. They become so lonely. At least they spend time and ask God what is next, and they get into ministry. But because of pastors like this, there are a lot of volunteers, a lot of musicians who quit church ministry. I know at least some musicians who are hurt by the way they were treated by their pastors. Pastors take the musicians for granted. They exploit their skills for the benefit for themselves. And when the time comes, they let go of them. Now these musicians and volunteers who are in production, you know the kind of effort they put in. They give up their friends, they give up their families, and they come towards church. They committed so much and they work so much. And when they are hurt, and your pastor, just like a snap, lets them go, And you know what happens to these people, church? They stop going to church. And they never wanted to serve in any church anymore. That's what is happening to us. The way pastors treat volunteers. Is that how a pastor is supposed to be? Is that how a leader is supposed to be? I doubt. Now they made a statement in the church that we are no longer members of this church. Now what is that wrong that we have done that we are no longer members of the church? Now is that even biblical? Let's talk about it. Does the Bible talk about removing people from the church? Church is all about sharing and caring. If someone is falling back, you cannot let go of them, but rather you support them and make them stand firm. And one of the things which I don't understand is they are so cool about it, right? When they let go of somebody, and how come they are not feeling guilty at all? One of the statements Pastor Chaitanya made to one of the believers who visited after the Palm Sunday incident is this, that letting go of Selvin is very expensive, but my ego, I have to. That simply tells me that you're not driven to do kingdom work. You're driven to build something else. Because of pastors like this, the musicians, the volunteers in the church get affected. And church, when after 9 years, when we stopped coming to church, do you know what we missed? Do you know what the volunteers miss? They miss fellowship. They miss company of friends. Now they cannot go back to their friends whom they were not in contact for years. Whereas your Pastor Chaitanya has made connections across the globe. But under people who are working under them, all that they have is the church where they invested their time and their life. And what did they get back in return? Humiliation. What did they get back in return? Rejection. What did they get back in return? Nothing. But if they're not into full-time ministry, most of them, they make a decision not to serve in church anymore. Be careful as to whom you're following, who your pastor is. Are they kingdom driven or world driven? God bless.